Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has said in a TV interview that his military still needs more time to prepare for a counteroffensive against Russian forces. A pushback by Ukrainian troops against Russia's invasion has been widely expected for some weeks. President Zelenskyy said Ukraine could make progress if they counterattack now, but that the cost in lives would be too great.
The most important thing is to protect our people. We are expecting more armoured equipment. It's arriving in parts. We can go forward with what we have and be successful, but we will lose a lot of people. I think that is unacceptable. We need to wait. We need some more time.
Meanwhile, a Ukrainian army unit fighting near the eastern city of Bakhmut says it has pushed Russian forces back by some 2 kilometers. The claim appears to confirm an account from the head of Russia's Wagner mercenary group, who said regular Russian forces had fled from the battlefield. Meanwhile, many civilians living in the region are now deciding to get out and get away from the danger while they still can.
The cackle of gunfire and blasts of mortar rockets. Here, on the outskirts of the besieged Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, the fighting continues. These Ukrainian soldiers are poised to respond to attacks. Russian troops are very close by.
So we're gonna shoot back right now. Try to kill some of them.
Bakhmut has seen the deadliest fighting since the war began. Both sides have lost huge numbers of troops on its streets. The city itself has been devastated. And yet Ukrainians are not prepared to give it up.
If we would retreat, for example, yes, we could save few lives, but then we will have to assault back, and we could lose much more lives. So we need to stand here till the end.
But for some, the fighting is getting too close. Less than 30 kilometers away from Bakhmut, Lyudmila and her daughter Yulia are packing up and preparing to leave the city of Kostiantynivka.
I feel bad. I have had such a long life. I'm 83 years old and now I have to leave my hometown. It's just a matter of 2 seconds, but you barely have time to get to the shelter. I tried once to go to the shelter with my mother, but it took me 40 minutes to pack things up.
Ukrainians continue to flee towns and cities on the front lines, often leaving beloved relatives and not knowing if and when they will be able to return.
More on that. Let's go across to Nick Connolly. He joins us now from Kyiv. Nick, let me ask you first about Zelensky's statement on the spring offensive. He says that Ukraine is not ready yet. Do you see that as an admission of a setback for Ukraine?
I think, first of all, Terry, it's important to take all these kind of statements during wartime with a significant pinch of salt. We saw last year, before Ukraine's flash kind of blitz counterattack in the east of the country, lots of very mixed messages coming out of Kyiv, so this might just be part of an effort to distract and to confuse the Russian commanders here on the ground in Ukraine. But I think it is also part of an effort in terms of expectation management in Western capitals. I think there's a real fear here in Kyiv that if Ukraine isn't able to pick up as much territory as hoped, that there will be a push to force Ukraine to some kind of negotiations on Russia's terms, some kind of messaging coming in recent weeks from the West about this basically being Ukraine's last chance. So that's something they definitely want to avoid and get that kind of message, that narrative across before the fighting begins, to prevent those kind of calls if the result isn't as successful as they want it to.
At the same time, Nick, we have reports of gains for Ukrainian troops in Bakhmut. How significant are those gains?
I mean, by the standards of the battles around Bakhmut in recent months, this is a big deal. This is a question of kilometres rather than a few hundred metres here or there. But if you take a step back and look at the kind of bigger picture, it still doesn't change the fact that the huge majority of Bakhmut is in Russian hands, and I don't think it's going to change soon. Most of the pundits looking at this expected counteroffensive think that Bakhmut is the least likely place where the Ukrainians would try to roll back those Russian troops. Other parts of the country much less defended by the Russian side. So this is, yes, a rare bit of good news out of Bakhmut, but nothing that really changes the situation and the balance of power on the ground.
Nick, thank you very much. That was our correspondent, Nick Connolly, in Kyiv.